So perhaps you are in a place where you are asking certain questions about your relationships. Maybe you're asking in what ways can personal development enhance intimacy in a relationship? What actions can improve self-esteem in the context of relationships? How do I deal with conflict resolution in a relationship? Or how do I deal with anxiety that comes with relationships? What is the psychology of attractions? Are my relationships part of the school of life? Very interesting and unique questions. If you have more of these questions, then stay tuned. We have a lot coming up. Welcome to all our viewers. You are watching Why Your Relationship with Yourself Sets a Tone for Your Entire Life. So, this is part 3 of this series and the topic that we are discussing. Part 1 and part 2 are available for viewing as well. You are welcome to subscribe to our channel and go and watch those 2 videos. We've had some very, very interesting and fascinating discussion and conversation around this specific topic. Okay, I would like to welcome Emmanuel. There we go. Who's going to set the scene for us in part 3. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Linda, thank you for that welcome and for the announcement and so on, and also for inviting me to give part 3 of this interesting topic, relationships, and how we say there at the bottom why your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. Linda, what I would like to suggest is that we take the agenda, and from the agenda, let me set the scene, and then you guide me in terms of where we are starting today. So we are going to cover point number 1, why our relationships don't work, and is a shift necessary in your relationships? And we covered that in part 2. And how to shift when it comes to your relationships, and that oops in part 1 we covered is a shift necessary in your relationships, and in part 2 how to shift when it comes to your relationships. And today we are going to cover how easy is the shift regarding your relationships, and maybe depending on time, we might get into point number 5. Is the shift in your relationship sustainable? We say there no, if you are treating the symptom, and yes, when you address the root cause. And of course, we talk about the symptoms and the root cause throughout this presentation. And we also today would be covering Peace Evolution's recipe. That's point number 6. And point number 7, how do you recognize your purpose? Linda, and that is setting the scene. Before we jump in, anything else from your side?
No, go for it, Emmanuel.
Okay, so then just to make sure, today we are talking about how easy is the shift regarding your relationship. I get the thumbs up, so let us start there. And we are starting at this particular point, building trust in relationships. The crux of the matter, when we say why your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. Now, if that relationship is not healthy, if you don't trust yourself, for instance, then we need to ask the question, well, building trust in a relationship, is that possible? So it starts with each one of us. If the relationship with ourselves is good and healthy, if we trust ourselves, of course, then building trust in relationships could work. If not, it means we need to first look at the relationship with ourselves. Now, throughout this video, throughout this presentation, we are talking about the relationship with ourselves and how it impacts other things. So building trust in relationships is one of those. It starts with me. Then if we take that and we say, should I ask my friends for advice? Certainly. Should I ask my friends for advice? If you feel your friend's relationship with the friend itself is healthy, please do. Otherwise, I would rather say, let's look at the presentation further. But let me just stand here. We usually go to somebody who we feel would agree with us. When we go to anybody, a friend, a colleague, a family member, a partner, we usually like going to the people who would agree with us. Whether that is accurate or not, please keep in mind we go to people as a principle who would agree with us. There is also the possibility that another person that we go to might not agree with us. Are we then satisfied that we are getting information from that person that would serve us, even though the person does not agree with us? So just keep in mind, we prefer to go to people who agree with us. Improving self-esteem in relationships. Now, what we say here, and just to be very clear, the points that we mention here is researched by one of our team members who takes a look at what people ask about and talk about in terms of their relationships. So, improving self-esteem in relationships. That goes back to the heart of it again. You are able to improve your self-esteem by treating the symptom. Rest assured, at some point, that self-esteem is going to drop again, and we'd like to rather address our self-esteem once, and then it sticks. And that is part of our relationship with ourselves. If that is healthy, our relationship and our self-esteem would also stick in other relationships. How to avoid being clingy. Now, the heart of being clingy, I didn't think I was going to get to this point so quickly, but the heart of the clingy is as follows. Linda, please add the image that talks about the first choice self and the second choice self. And on this image, so let us see where the clinginess comes from to avoid being clingy. Let's see where it comes from. On the left-hand side, or on my left, it says first choice self, I am the source of my life. On the right-hand side, there it says SCS, second choice self, I perpetuate the belief to prove myself. So it means I'm looking for acceptance. And the moment I'm clingy, it is exemplifying that I am looking for approval. I am uncomfortable to stand on my own feet. I'm uncomfortable to stand in my space, which now means I become clingy. And that is certainly that I am looking for acceptance. And of course, the belief to prove myself as part of the second choice self is then the notion of the belief to prove myself. The only reason I would want to prove myself is for acceptance. And how to avoid being clingy is to understand it's all about acceptance and not being comfortable to stand in my own space. And when we take this a step further, thank you for the image, Linda. How to not feel insecure. Again, if our relationship with ourselves is not healthy, of course, we then feel insecure no matter where we are. And let's look at masculine energy. We had something similar in one of our previous parts, where on the one hand, in the male, let's take myself for an example, for me to be able to take care of myself and not be needy on needing a partner, so that I'm able to take care of myself in my own right. If I am not living with my and acknowledge my feminine energy in the same way, if a woman is not looking at her masculine energy and understanding that she also has a masculine energy. So in the man, we have the masculine and the feminine. In the woman, we have the masculine and the feminine. And if we don't understand those dynamics, we feel as part of that being missing that we need the other person to complete us. So apart from that, a man is capable of certain things and a woman is capable of certain things, the masculine energy and the feminine energy, we need to tap into both of those. Now, the moment we are living as our first choice self, that is an automatic thing that we understand the dynamics within us and we see the dynamics within us, and the notion of the chauvinist disappears because that was made by the male wanting to dominate all other um, people that's not a male, and even some other males. So this whole dominance is something we made from our second choice self. I want to dominate somebody. I want to extract value through that dominance, which means I am not truly being myself. And the masculine energy of course, created the Calvinist, let's call it, concept and belief in our standards and norms. Now, look at the self-sabotaging relationships. Now, please remember that in any relationship, that could be the relationship with myself, the relationship with a family member, the relationship with friends, the relationship in an intimate way with a partner and a spouse, etc. Self-sabotaging relationships. Now, the moment that I am there to take, meaning I am living as my second choice self, of course, I am then taking, and depending on which of the two people are dominant, we would then sabotage ourselves by being dependent on the other person. And in this dynamic of the one person being dominant, the other person being submissive, instead of each standing in their own space as their first choice self. And here comes the difference, where we then bring of our meaning to the relationship. If we are from our second choice self, a relationship, we is how choice operates, do we take, and depend on the level of that, of course, I'm then self-sabotaging relationships. Every one I go to, it would be the same as this one. If I then get out of that relationship, I go to a new relationship, it would be exactly the same. And from a first choice self, I am the source of my life. I don't need anything first to be myself. In the second choice self, I perpetuate the belief to prove myself. And I prove that by extracting value. If this person is willing to give me that perceived value, it's not possible that anybody gives me value. It's absolutely not possible. It's perceived like that. So that if the person is not being themselves and rather dancing to my tune, I am then I then feel that I've proven myself. Look, this person is willing to bow to my whatever I want from them. And of course, that is definitely not healthy, and that is self-sabotaging relationships to the nth degree. It could be on a small scale, it could also be on a bigger scale. Conflict resolution, as Linda mentioned there in the beginning, conflict resolution is like this. There's a conflict, and both parties necessarily want to be right, want to win. And it could be in any relationship. It could be me with a colleague, it could be me with a boss, it could be me in a family member, with a sibling, with a parent, it could be me in an intimate relationship, it could be any relationship. It could be when I go to a shop and the customer is always right principle. So those are social norms. And of course, then through that, conflicts arise, and we then need conflict resolution. However, if we are there, wherever we are, in whichever relationship, to bring our meaning, there would be no conflict. How successful? Now, of course, the first question I need to ask is, why would anybody want to be successful? What does that success mean? Does that success mean I earn enough money? Does that success mean I've got a particular job? Does that success mean I drive a car? Does that success mean I live in a particular home? Or is the principle behind this that I am successful in my own right when I live my first choice self. Everything else is to fill some need. Now, the how to be successful is from some need to earn more, to have more money to do things that I want to do. Of course, that is not a matter of being successful. It is more a matter of I happen to have circumstances that create the ability for me to be successful and to do whatever I want to do. The psychology of attraction. The psychology of attraction. Now, do I now need to program myself to know how to attract somebody? Have I got the courage to let that unfold automatically? Is that something that I want, or is that something that I need? Is that something that I like, or is that part of me proving that I'm able to attract somebody? So let me take it from a different point of view. If I'm just naturally being myself, living my first choice self, first of all, I would not have the desperation to be in a relationship, to be in a certain job. These things all take on a different meaning. I need a job to pay the bills. It's got nothing to do with success or proving failure. As we said in the previous point, the psychology of attraction now means I am able to be a certain way so that other people might find me attractive, to want to be with me, instead of me being myself and people for my own sake see, oh, this is somebody I want to share some time with. And when we look at self-improvement, which is our next step there, the self-improvement one is a tricky one. What is it of myself that I want to improve? For example, at some point I realized that I write a lot. And I also realized that my writing skills are not necessarily suitable to what I'm writing. So I took a creative writing course, and during the creative writing course, I learned how to express myself in a way that I could be understood. I also realized that because of the technical nature of my writing, I would write in a certain way, but the moment it was not technical, my writing lacked to be able to convey the message, and I went on a creative course. Now, is that self-improvement? Is that want to understand how to write? If we are talking about that, then of course self-improvement is different to, let's look at this other one. I want to self-improve based on filling some need, as opposed to me just wanting to up my skill. In any case, it fills. And let me go back to the creative writing course. I just noticed that my writing was not clear. I then went and took a course to improve my writing per se, because I felt that I wrote a lot at that, and if I was going to write a lot, let me improve my writing skills. And that could be something. Now, in terms of a relationship, I could want to improve to be a better father. I could want to improve to be a better mother. I could want to improve to take care of the finances. And there are a variety of things that I would want to self improve. And there are many, many things. For instance, what we say is we have skills, we have talents, and we have a temperament. And self improvement fits in very nicely with improving my skill, for instance, in terms of the writing, as I was giving an example. Let's look at this one, broken trust. Now, either somebody else has broken their trust with me, or I have broken my trust with somebody else. Now, I would like to say that unless we live our full integrity, where our integrity, our word is our bond, we are definitely going to struggle with trust, either from our side, that people would eventually not be able to trust me because I'm not reliable. I arrive late at meetings. I don't arrive to in time or at all for an invitation that I received. And of course, I am in a relationship. In the meantime, I was flirting with other people, even going on dates with other people. Now, is that within a trust relationship, or is that I now broke the trust that I have in that relationship? So, of course, if our word is our bond, we would understand that breaking the trust and what denotes breaking the trust, etc. Am I comfortable enough to share openly, not as an excuse afterwards, but to share openly that my life has certain activities in it, and part of it is that I do these things, and then my partner or my parent or my brother or my friend might say, I'm comfortable with that and I understand that, and so on. They now give their blessing, but is the blessing not also then getting approval to break the trust? So, as long as we are living our lives where our word is our bond, it would be very difficult to break our trust, either somebody with us or we with somebody. Self-respect. Now, where does self-respect start? Does it start with me, or does self-respect start in some other way? Now, if I don't respect myself, how could I have any self-respect or any respect in terms of anything that I do or in how I behave towards anyone else? The self-respect starts with me. Love advice. Now, there is only one advice that at Peace Evolution we could give you, is the moment you are living your second choice self, you would have issues in terms of love. The moment you live your first choice self, you won't have issues because you would understand love and also understand that the love starts with me. If I'm not able to self love, I'm not able to love anybody else or anything, and also take care of anyone else, myself included, or anything. The secret to building a perfect relationship. Here is the secret. Understand the notion that we talk about here at Peace Evolution of the first choice self and the second choice self. Befriend that understanding, befriend the second choice self, and also recognize how the second choice self is always putting you on the back foot because you believe you need to prove yourself. Whereas the first choice self does not need to prove anything to anybody, not from being arrogant, but from understanding itself and, and the person understanding themselves perfectly. Now, we also made a video of each of those. The one is I am the source of my life, the, the first choice self. The you are the source of your life. The second choice self, how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. So those are two videos if you are interested to take the notion of the first choice self and the second choice self further to understand that. And that would give you the secret to building a perfect relationship. We are giving you some homework. Go and look at those two videos because there you would see the secret to building the perfect relationship. How to have better relationships. Now, does that mean you have a relationship? Then you feel, okay, this is not for me. Then you have another relationship. Oh, no, this is not for me. You have another relationship. This is not for me. Or is this to have a better relationship with myself, with my parents, with my siblings, with friends, with things like money, my health, the environment? Which relationships are we talking about here? Are we even aware that there are other relationships that we are in? How to have better relationships? Ask yourself the question, is your relationship with yourself the best it could be? Meaning you're living a first choice life. Conflict resolution in relationships. We covered that point a little bit earlier, just in different words, but we covered that. And here I'd like to add conflict resolution in relationships. Would they come up if each person is there merely to bring of themselves, and also where we then realize we have an opportunity to experience the meaning the other person brings? Would there be any conflict? Take a look at that. And again, it comes back to the image and the two videos we showed. Building healthy relationships. We also had something very similar to that. How to have a good relationship. The last few things that we've said are reiterating previous points that are very similar. How to have a good relationship. It's the same remedy. If my relationship with myself is fine, the relationship with anybody, parents, siblings, at work, colleagues, money, vehicle, home, intimate partner, spouse, all of those would then be good relationships, so to speak. If my relationship with myself is not healthy, it won't be good. And I'm using this good in inverted commas. Dealing with anxiety, I'm certainly going to be anxious if I continuously feel I need to prove myself. And that is fortunately something that is a figment of our imagination. Nothing like that exists that I need to prove myself. So we are able to switch off the anxiety. Let's look at this one, the school of life. So we all live in the school of life. We don't have a manual. We don't know how to live in the school of life. And we pick up dings and dongs along the way, and we gain experience, and we are building a life for us. The question is that life our life based on that we are the source of ourselves? Am I the source of my life? And I built my life through the school of life around that. Or could I look at it another way? That if I'm the first choice self, I instantaneously unleash my own knowing because it's written in my heart as the source of your life, as the source of my life. I then unleash that me, and that me is always going to live that my actions and my behavior is for the benefit of everyone, including myself and everything. And we come to this interesting point here, how to make love last forever. Okay. I feel there are probably two parts to this question or this point, how to make love last forever. Now, the one part of the question is the love in my relationship already healthy? Are the circumstances conducive and therefore it feels as if this is a love relationship? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is as my first choice self, and let us say that I'm in a relationship, and I'm assuming for a moment that we are talking about an intimate relationship, but the same applies to parents, siblings, friends, etc. But let's stick to a intimate relationship. Are we then saying that necessarily that I'm only going to be with one partner for my whole life? Could it be that our paths come together, we walk a path together, and the one person, through what they are doing with their lives, veer off this way, and I then need to veer off that way as well? Or could it be that the partner, through whatever it's doing, veers off this way, and through what I'm doing with my life, or the other partner, through there, it is not possible for them to also veer off into that direction because of what they are doing with their lives and bringing of their value to their life. They might veer off this way or continue on this path. So maybe making love last forever, how to make love last forever, is maybe not a possibility in all cases. So please be aware of that dynamic. So I've now come to the conclusion of this section. I'd like to invite Linde back into the studio. And then, Linde, I went very quickly now and did point number 4, but I'd like to rush back to point number 1 to sketch that part of the relations of relationships to emphasize certain other things. I get the nod. I get the nod. Okay.
Yes, Emmanuel, thank you for sharing that. I
Any questions before we continue back to section one?
Yes, I have comments and questions before we go to
Okay,
section one. Um, just for our viewers, quickly, Emmanuel, could we just perhaps maybe just explain that the phrases and things that you're bringing up on the ticker at the bottom, those are things that we've actually done research on of what people are looking for, searching, or trying to find out about. So, is there anything else you want to add to that? I just want to explain that quickly to our viewers.
Linda, please go ahead, explain.
Yes, so basically we have peer that does our research for us and look into terminology that people are searching for online, which gives us a good indication where people find themselves in the sphere of relationships. You know, as Emmanuel shared earlier, he mentioned, should I ask my friends for advice? And looking at self development in the context of relationships, or self sabotaging uh, behavior within a relationship. All of these things are what you, the viewer, are searching for, asking about, or wondering about. And what we do here at Peace Evolution is we look at those things and say, are we treating symptoms, or what is at the root of that? And very much what Emmanuel has displayed on the screen in regard to we refer to as the first choice self and the second choice self. That's what it comes down to. That is what we look at when it comes to addressing the root cause. So yes, I just quickly wanted to mention that, and then you wanna say anything on
I,
that, Emmanuel?
I want to add something, Linda. Thank you for elaborating on that. And then, as peace evolution in principle, we bring two things. We recognize that relationships is not only about the relationship in an intimate situation with somebody else or a spouse. We recognize relationships also with ourselves, with money, with things, with the environment, with our boss, with whoever. Relationships is a widespread thing. It's not just in the intimate relationship part. So that's one thing that we that we make a distinction on. The other side of it, Linde, is you mentioned that now is that we look at what is the root cause instead of just treating the symptom. And that's what I wanted to add, Linde.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. And then, Emmanuel, a question I guess I want to ask on behalf of our viewers, that you were talking about, one of the things that you mentioned was conflict resolution. And you made a very interesting statement. You said, when we bring our meaning, there would be no conflict. Now, that is quite a big statement, I think, to say, because even in my own life, I'm kind of scratching my head and going, no conflict in the relationship. How could this be possible, Emmanuel? So I thought maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that, because surely within any relationship, we are going to experience conflict.
Okay, Linda, good point. Let's see if I'm able to add a little bit more for clarity. So there is the definite difference that if let's say both partners are in the relationship to extract value. Now, the moment things don't go their way, to extract that value, they would be, let's just call it loosely, upset, frustrated, irritated, angry, whichever emotion you want to add to it. But the root cause of that, any conflict that I'm having, is that I want to extract value. And I extract value from the point of wanting to prove something. Now, the moment I see from a first choice self, let us say both people in the relationship are from a first choice self stance, so they have seen the second choice self, seen the first choice self, understands the dynamic, have the brutal honesty and courage, and made the shift to the first choice self. And it's not the one moment I'm this and the other moment I'm that. It's a matter of it's absolute. I use the example as the race car driver that is now does not know how to stop just in time. So they stop, they brake too soon or they brake too late. There is no you, and once you get the notion of understanding I need to brake just in time, then I'm most probably 99.9% going to brake just in time. Now, that's an absolute thing. If I don't brake just in time versus I brake in time, that's an absolute thing. Now, in a relationship between the first choice self and the second choice self, I don't understand it. I get it intellectually. I need to internalize it, and eventually I make the step change, and then I'm the first choice self. I am not sometimes being this and sometimes being that. It's an absolute thing. Now, if both partners are in a relationship where the both partners are bringing their value and they recognize that it's a privilege and an honor to be in a relationship with another person, to experience that other person in their life, then is the behavior of that person, if my if I'm open to experiencing that other person in their own right without them needing a song and dance, especially for me. And I'm in that relationship to experience those differences. Where would the conflict arise? How would the conflict arise? Linda, does that help a little bit?
Absolutely, and beautifully answered, Emmanuel.
Okay,
So
thank you.
to kind of sum it up, would you say from a second choice self stance, the relationship is conditional, where from a first choice self, it's unconditional.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
So let's take that even further. My relationship with myself is unconditional. My
Mm,
relationship with the other person is unconditional. If my relationship with myself is conditional, that I need to prove something, I can't be in a relationship and be there unconditionally because I'm always wanting to prove myself to extract that value.
mm,
So Linda's spot on. The one is unconditional, the other one is conditional.
perfect, perfect. Okay, fantastic. Great. So, Mona, you wanted to quickly cover part one. Perhaps what we can do is just look at it at a very high level, because
Okay.
we did cover it in detail in part one and two that our viewers are welcome to go and have a look at.
Okay,
So,
so what do you say we just quickly glance over it?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Good suggestion there. Okay, so why, and I'm starting right now, Linda,
Yes.
right? Why? our relationships don't work. So let's have a look at that statement. Why? Our relationships are mostly a struggle. So let's have a look at that. Again, as Linda said, this comes from our research. Why do our relationships change after the honeymoon phase? Let me just briefly stop there. So during the honeymoon phase, and this could be in an intimate relationship, in a marriage, in a work situation, in a car situation, in a house situation, in a dress that I bought, in a suit that I bought, everything is fine, hunky dory. Now, after a while, in intimate relationships, we refer to this as the honeymoon phase is over. In the other relationships, the novelty has worn off. Now it's just another thing. Now we say, but the person changed. Now keep in mind, why did the relationship even start? Is there a holistic reasoning behind our relationships? Do we even realize that there is a holistic reasoning behind it? Are we aware of what we want from relationships? Now, please remember, in the relationship where we are the first choice self, we welcome the differences that person is bringing of themselves into my life. In the second choice self, where I constantly need to prove something, I do not like differences. I cannot like differences. How does that work? Because if there are suddenly differences between the two of us, then does that mean that I am not accepted? And remember, I'm only wanting to prove myself to be accepted. Would your relationship ever give you exactly what you want? Now, let me tell you, 9 times out of 10, there would be some overlaps, or maybe not even as high as 9 times out of 10, where there's some compatibility. There's usually also incompatibility. Now, would your relationship give you exactly what you want? If you want the other person, if you want to be domineering, if you want to manipulate that person emotionally, and that person then submits to that to want to be accepted, then of course there's an insincerity level in that relationship. And of course, we would never get, because guaranteed things are going to change, guaranteed. Do you compromise in a relationship? This is a sticky one. Linda, I'm going to expand on this one a little bit. Is it compromise if two people in a relationship says, the one says, oh, we had these arrangements for whatever reason, and let's not even look at the reason. I had this arrangement, but I need to now change it for that. I have this arrangement, the other partner says, and my partner needs to change the the arrangement that we had for this. Now, as long as we realize that if the person has no choice and must do it according to what the other person says, otherwise there's going to be conflict, for instance, versus I see, oh, it's not a big deal. It's easy for me to switch over. It is a big deal. It's not easy for me to switch over. Now, are both partners then comfortable with that they accept unconditionally the circumstances of what just happened without any conflict, without differences of opinion, just accept it for what it is, and then accept that it goes this way, it goes this way, or it goes this way. So the one person joins the other person that way, joins the other person that way, or they just don't join at all. As long as we see that that is not a compromise, if we are both there for the value that we bring to the relationship, let's say the value of understanding that the other person is not always going to be able to stick exactly to some pre-arranged something. So that is then the point of compromise. The other point is then unconditionally accept what your relationships bring in a job, in a relationship with parents, with siblings, with a colleague. Do we accept unconditionally what relationships bring? Do you yearn for a different life? So we have now spoken of several things. Now we're coming closer to the crux of the matter. Do you yearn for a different life? So you've got a life, you are in a relationship, you've got a job, you've got a house, you don't have any of those, yet you yearn for a different life. Is your life unique to you as your fingerprint? Are you living your uniqueness? So there we see the fingerprint. Are you living that uniqueness? Are you creating the perfect balance between your relationship and the relationship, your relationships and the relationship with yourself? Let's take that slowly. Creating the perfect balance between your relationships and the relationship with yourself. Is there a perfect balance? I've been speaking about this even in the previous points. If we look at another one, the relationship sets the tone for your life in every aspect and every relationship with yourself, everyone, and everything. Are your relationships like that? And if they are, let's look at where that brings you, and you evolve inner peace. Linde, I went very quickly over this section.
That's perfect, Emmanuel. I think it ties very nicely in all of these things that you just mentioned with all the terms and the phrases that we went through when it came to how easy is it to shift regarding your relationship. So in a sense, it's actually nice to cover this after setting the scene for that. But yes, let's move on.
Linde, so let us just bring up the agenda again. Let's have a look at that. So we started in the middle. We started with point number 4. Point number 2 was part 1. Point number 3 was part 2. Point number 4 is now part 3. We then went back to just touch on point number 1, why our relationships don't work. And now we are going to Peace Evolution's recipe. And let's see what that looks like. Before I go there, Linde, anything from your side, or am I just going there straight away? I'm going there straight away. Okay, the first point on Peace Evolution's recipe. So please remember now, we've set the scene, We are talking about the different relationships. We are talking about the foundation of our relationships. So I am here on planet Earth. I don't have a manual, and I now have many, many, many things attempting to tell me how to be. At Peace Evolution, we also want to tell you how to be. The crux of the matter here is different. We address the root cause. And the root cause in principle is, we say, if your relationship with yourself is healthy, your other relationships would automatically be healthy. And that is addressing the root cause. When we look at not addressing the relationship with ourselves, but looking for ways to cope or to manage or to survive in all our other relationships and the one with ourselves, we are saying that is treating the symptom. And of course, they are going to reoccur. Now we're showing people's recipe by addressing the root cause. So there we are. Base your relationships on liking what you do. You are not able to fail, or you are not able to treat the symptom by addressing the root cause in the way that we are saying now. But your relationships on life, that is addressing the root cause. The other ones, treating the symptom, and they occur in other guises or in the same guise. Now, look at this one. Do you recognize, how do you recognize liking what you do? So we say, base it on liking what you do. Now, how do you recognize this? It starts with recognizing your uniqueness. Do you know that you are as unique as your fingerprints? You also recognize your purpose. You recognize you are the source of your life. And remember, we made a video about that. You craft your vision. Now, in my own case, my daydreams, I had a particular pattern in them. And once I understood the undercurrent of those patterns, I was able to recognize my purpose. I was able to recognize my uniqueness. And also, I was able to recognize liking what I do. From that, I was then able to craft a vision to depict in my mind's eye what that uniqueness, how I'm the source of my life, unfold. And then here it comes. You live your unique life. And then also suddenly you realize nothing feels missing. We touched on something feels missing. You also suddenly realize that you stop yearning for a different life. Let's look at this. I, Emmanuel, yearned for a different life because until I recognized and addressed the root cause, I was missing in my life. I was proving that I'm something. I was proving something with my life. Linda, please, could we have a look at that image again? As the second choice self, I was constantly perpetuating the belief to prove myself. As the second choice self, I perpetuate the belief to prove myself. Then as the root cause, I noticed, wait, there is a first choice self where I am the source of my life. Now, in principle, this something that feels missing and this wanting, yearning for a different life is exactly that. While I'm perpetuating the belief to prove myself, which by the way is based of my imagination. It's not reality. I created that figment of my imagination. Then obviously I am missing in my life. Making the step change to the first choice self, then suddenly what it says there, you stop yearning for a different because you are living it. Thank you, Linda. You live a life of meaning. Now, my story started many years ago is what is the meaning of my life? And that brought this presentation that we are now giving you, brought life to this presentation. So, having recognized my first choice self and making the step change, I then see, oh, my life has meaning. And then balance your balance. So, look at that one. You balance your relationship and liking what you do. There's no need for a conflict in a relationship. You are liking what you do and you balance liking what you do and your relationships. Let's look at this last one on the peace evolution recipe. Look at that. You recognize the relationship with yourself sets the tone for your life. Look at what it says there at the bottom. You recognize the relationship with yourself sets the tone for your life. Or relationship with A, yourself, B, everyone, and C, everything, the environment as well, your health as well, your money matters as well, the relationship with where you stay, your dwelling, your relationship with your car, your motor, anything, suddenly there's harmony in your life. Now that is the peace evolution recipe, step by step, what you would experience in living your first choice life. That is the recipe of what it would be like. And I'm now ready to get to the next section. Let's just check. Everything fine, Linda? Am I jumping into the next section?
Yes, Emmanuel, let's jump into the next section because we would like to know how to recognize our uniqueness. Are you going to tell us about
Yes,
that?
yes, yes. Linda,
Oh,
could we just quickly have the agenda again?
perfect.
Thank you. So we covered point number 4, then we jumped to point number 1. We just completed point number 6. Now we are going to point number 7. How do you recognize all of this? So we said what it looks like. We set the scene for what it looks like. Now let's look at the actual steps. And that is, how do you recognize your purpose? Here we go. You follow Peace Evolution's YouTube channel. Our message is contained in all the content that we create. We create the content from this side, we create the content from that angle, we create the content from this angle. This content that we are creating is from the relationship angle. We've got all the content. So you look at Peace Evolution's channel and you see the videos and you are able to help yourself to recognize your purpose. We also created a playlist. So we have a playlist with videos selected particularly around recognizing your purpose. You're also able to purchase the ebook, Life Can Be Different Conception. And conception is depicting there where you see the first choice self, you see the second choice self, and you scratch your head and you say, I've had enough of my second choice self, where I'm perpetuating, proving the belief that I need to prove something. So get to that point and I make the step change. Of course, that step change is where the word, that title conception comes from. I'm giving birth to my first choice self. By the way, the first choice self has always been there. I'm now just letting it flourish, letting it out. My second choice self says, I've had enough of this. And my first choice self says, thank you. I'm taking this. I'm now ready for it. It took courage to get there. It took brutal honesty to get there. So that book is also going to guide you through all different things that you would encounter, most probably encounter a high percentage of it. If it's not 99% or 100%, it's very close to that. The other way that you could recognize your purpose is on YouTube. We created a membership with 4 levels. Those 4 levels is a step guidance and facilitating, taking you to recognize your purpose all the way through to balancing making money and liking what you do. Because no matter what you do, you are going to need to pay the bills. But now the perspective and how you look at money, that changes altogether. Money is just money. It does not mean that I've arrived. It just means I'm able to pay the bills. And I am in the membership, I'm able to then take part in balancing those two. There we are. On the one hand, it's the heart, because liking what I do comes from my heart, and then balancing the money there to be able to pay the bills. And it's nothing more than that. Remember that the first choice self, in its quest to prove something, misses the point altogether that all we want to do is pay the bills. Consequent to these steps, nothing feels missing. You stop yearning for a different life. You live a life of meaning. You recognize your relationship with yourself works. And what I've been saying is the moment the relationship with yourself is healthy and it works, all other relationships work. And again, as we said in point number 1, you evolve inner peace. Linde, and that was a mouthful. That presentation is certainly a mouthful. And we've now done 3 parts. We have not even completed relationships yet. Yeehaw!
Yes, that's how much there are to say about this topic. I just want to remind our viewers that part 1 and part 2 are available for viewing on our channel. Please go and have a look. We really enjoying this topic about how your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. I love that. I absolutely love that. Emmanuel, once again, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, until next time, thank you.
Thank you to our viewers also. Thank you very much.